Today, we're doing a video on how to make dark beats.
Alright, here's my bane. Here's my bane real quick. You merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it. What is good, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another masterclass. In this video, I'm going to be going over dark melodies and samples. Make sure not to skip any steps, as if you skip something, you might miss something that's really important. And this video isn't that long, so. First, some cheap and free VSTs that are really good for dark sounding beats. You can use FL keys. You use the right effects on this, you can make it sound pretty decent, especially for dark beats. Next, we have Flex by Image Line, and this is a free one as well. You should just have it since you have FL Studios, I'm assuming. If you learn how to use these knobs and stuff like that, you can really get a lot cooler sounds than just the stock sounds they have within here. Another pretty good cheap plugin is Expand 2. I don't have it downloaded on this computer anymore as I don't really use it, but when I was first starting out, it's a plugin that I used a lot. Now, another really good option, this is a little bit of self-plug, of course, but if you watched any of my videos, you guys know that I actually use all of my kits and stuff like that pretty much exclusively. So my one-shot / analog bank Blacklight is a really good for dark beats. It's got tons of different super heavy bass lines, a lot of good string sounds, synth keys, pads, etc. that are really good for dark beats, and you can find that on my website. Now, this one-shot kit also doubles as an analog lab bank, and Analog Labs is a really good plug-in as well. Got a lot of really good stock sounds. It's not extremely expensive. I would highly recommend getting the Arteria collection, and it's just really packed with a bunch of really cool synths that you can go in and create sounds from scratch, as well as you can just use the presets they already have. Next, we have things like Keyscape. I really like the dark score piano in here. This final piano is pretty dope too. And then we also have Omnisphere, which of course is packed with a bunch of really great dark sounds as well, but super expensive. Overall though, when it comes to VSTs or effects, I'm sure you guys see with a bunch of other YouTube producers and stuff like that, them being paid to promote a bunch of random plugins and whatnot. Whenever you see a video like that and you're not familiar with it and you don't see other people using it, just do a little bit of research to see if it's actually something worth buying, as oftentimes what you'll see is someone will promote a product and then you'll never see them use it again. And that's not to say that it's a bad product, but if it was really as fire as they're saying it is, you might see them use it more than just once. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a very special sponsor, and I guess you could say I'm hyped to present it. Got this new plugin called Hype Man. It just takes your samples and it makes them more hyped. So you have a sample, and that's cool and all, but it's not hyped, man. Now we just throw a little hype man on this. Oh yeah. They never gonna recover from this. Oh yeah. Let's go, baby. Yeah. Now, when it comes to BPMs for dark sounding beats, it really kind of depends on the type of beat that you're trying to make. So I would really just recommend looking up a song that you like and going with that BPM. So when it comes to actually building chord progressions for dark sounding melodies, a real key is repetition. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is to just start by creating a minor chord. It's important that it's minor so it sounds dark. So I'm just using my one-shot / analog bank Blacklight, and the sound is just called Room. And then just duplicating it like this and dropping one note down. And this is just one method. I'm gonna show you guys a couple other ones as well. And boom, that already sounds super dark. So if I was doing something like this, probably just duplicate this over. And then there's a few things you can do. You can add a note on top. Or maybe take this out because it kind of makes it sound a little bright. And then just go in and at the end to add something that's going to change it up a little bit. Now, some other things that you can do as well, and again, you want to create a really repetitive pattern, is if we just go in and again create a minor chord, and then we could strum these, drag this over here, repeat it, then drag this over here, and we're just going to drop this down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could just do something like that. Play around with different pitches and whatnot to make it like even more darker. Now, third option that I like to use is if you go for a little bit of like longer notes, maybe something like this. And we can just start out with another minor chord and then just drop this down. Bottom note is lining up with the top note right here. Also do something like this where you pop up these bottom notes and just go like this. Double this up right here and then just drop these down. Pop this one up right here. You can also just go in and just add like one note. So maybe something right here. So now on to some effects, and right here I've just got a sample that I created for my new sample pack, Acid. Shout out to everyone that's went and copped it. I do appreciate it. The cool thing about this pack is pre-arrange the beat for you. So we've got the intro, pre-chorus, chorus, and verse right here, as well as all the stems. Then I also put in the MIDI for the bass line. So if you want to like change the bass line or you want to add like additional sounds or anything, you can go ahead and do that. And so I'm gonna just turn all the effects I have off here. The first effect that I really like is Decimort 2 versus it off. So it basically kind of just makes everything sound a little bit shittier, but that's kind of like the point with like dark beats. You can get like an old kind of distorted sound. I don't think I would ever like leave it like this. So for something like this, I would just not put on the effects all the way. Do something more like this. The next effect that I really like, RC20, which I'm sure everyone has heard of. There's a lot of different like great presets you can use. I like the VHS preset as well as the vinyl ones. So let's listen to it with. The next plugin I really like is Thermal, and I'm gonna get into like some free stuff that you can use as well in a second. These are just on the sample I made already, so I just want to cover them real quick. And Thermal is just great. It's like a creative distortion plugin, tons of different like awesome presets. I'm just using this. Totally different vibe right there. Just a really great way to like add texture to your sound and make it kind of like pop a little bit more. Now another really good plugin is Fresh Air. I believe this is also a distortion plugin, and this just adds some frequencies to like your mids and highs. It just kind of makes everything sound a little bit more clear and like stick out a little bit. Another plugin I like is Little Micro Shift, and this is just like a chorus plugin. Next, we gotta throw in the classic halftime. This just instantly makes everything sound a lot darker. Last paid plugin is Valhalla Vintage Verb. I just really like it as a reverb. Just make sure you cut out some of the lows when you use it. So you do not want reverb on the low end. First, Reverb 2. I'll usually just pick one of the presets. Usually for a dark beat, I would pick like something like Cathedral. So another good plugin you can use is Fruity Love Filter. One preset I really like is this low pass LFO, the triangle low pass LFO. And I usually play with the resonance a little bit, turn down the volume. Fruity Panomatic is a pretty good one. This just pans your sound into each ear. Another cool plugin you can use is Flanger. Lots of dope presets that you can just try out, or you can play with these knobs here as well. Just kind of morphs the sound. Then we also have Fruity Flangus, which you can also just play with the presets here. I like this preset a lot. And then another cool one is Fruity Phaser. So for this dark sample right here, what I basically ended up doing was I started with this. I just used that first technique that I showed you guys when building my melody, and it also includes the second method with the strumming. And like I mentioned earlier, the key is really just repetition here. These are all notes that are within the scale. You kind of just have to play around with it and make sure that you're creating like a constant rhythm when you're creating these melodies. I used just some effects that I just showed you guys, RC20, this tremulator plugin, which kind of just adds some movement to the sound, thermal for distortion, and then I just cut out some frequencies I didn't want right here. Then the next thing I did was I took another sound from the bank blacklight. If you're listening to it, you're probably like, I'm not hearing it on all of these parts right here. So if we listen without any effects. And so that sounds not that great, but the notes are all in the right places. Like, it doesn't sound like those notes are out of place. And that's because one big key, and this just makes your life easier and it's just usually works, is to just kind of go over notes that you've already used as part of your counter melody. And maybe if you want to create some tension, you might go off of that grid. Now for the effects right here, vintage verb for some reverb, filter freak, morphing the sound and like adding a filter to it. That's why when it's played, there's like certain notes that aren't even being played, but it just added a cool effect and it sounded pretty good. And then right here, I'm just cutting out some frequencies that I don't want. Oftentimes with darker sounding beats, cut up all the way up to like 200K on certain sounds. Forgot to mention Arcade as like a plugin earlier, but Arcade is super awesome. It really makes things a lot easier. And I'm just using this hooks preset called Elevated, and I just went for a super repetitive pattern right here. The best ones I would say for dark sounding beats are like Brainwaves is pretty good. I really like this lead preset over here. 0 Hour is like really kind of like hit or miss, but you can definitely use it. Distant Voices is a great one. I really wish they would update and add some new sounds. Vintage Synths is good. Vocode is a good one as well. Chopped is pretty good too. For your bass line, there's a few different strategies you can go with. So first right here, let me just play this bass. One option for dark samples is you could literally just do something like this, where I'm just hitting on the root note. The other option, like I did here, is just to add a few notes sporadically. And all of these notes playing right here are just notes that you can find in that previous pattern I mentioned earlier. Another thing you can do is, let's say you had like more of a basic chord progression, you could just go over and kind of just trace these root notes. And what might sound cool as well is just towards the end of each bar, maybe adding a note in that's also playing in the chord, and that might sound pretty cool. Now, last thing I want to talk to you guys is textures, and this is really something that kind of takes things to the next level and gives you a very professional sound, as this is what all the top producers are doing. And one thing you can do, of course, is you can just grab like sounds from your environment. Like maybe you live in a city, just record you being in like the subway or something like that, and just kind of tuck it in the background. And the key with this is to make sure that it's just turned down so you can just barely hear it. So you can maybe just barely hear it if you have good headphones. If I take it out though. it instantly sounds a little bit more empty. Now, another thing you can do to add textures, take all of your instruments, or maybe you just want to take 1 or 2 sounds, or maybe you just want to take 1 sounds, convert it into an audio file, select the pattern, and just go to Control-Alt-C, convert it into an audio file, reverse it, and then usually what I'll do is I'll just go in, chop it up, and then rearrange everything so everything back here is moved to the front. Once that's done, right-click, and then go to Automate, and then just go in and play with the volume. You could do something like this. Or you can do something like I did right here, where it just kind of smooths coming in a little bit. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you soon. Peace.